98.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. We had a fun night last night. We had a client appreciation party with all the clients at WTN. And I just want to give a shout out to the guys that work with us. Shane Ring from Cover Nash was there. Paul Winkler was there. Met a ton of great people. David Corlew was there. Christopher Van Shank was there. Just a great crew of guys and girls. And we do have the best advertisers on WTN. I know that you hear us all talking about these guys. But one of the things that's really cool about our advertisers is they believe in what we're doing. I can't tell you how many times last night I heard at our client appreciation thing, we believe in what you guys are doing. So when you work with one of our clients, I think it's important to understand that they're like-minded and they're in it for the right reasons when they advertise on WTN, and that's just good to know. So I wanted to start by shouting those guys out. Great crew of people.
And they're all just genuinely nice people.
Yeah.
Like even outside of their beliefs and whatnot, they're just genuinely good people.
Which is huge.
That's great. It's game-changing.
Yep, 100%. So yeah, we had this party last night. It was fun, man. We had a good time. We have another party where we want you to come on October 1st. Our big debate watch party at Hop Springs in Murfreesboro. Vance v. Walz. It's going to be fantastic. Fox Nation is going to be in the building. They're confirmed.
Yes, sir.
They're going to be doing a show live while we're doing our show live. They're going to want to talk to you. I made the comment yesterday. If you really want to get on Fox Nation, wear a Confederate flag shirt.
Get that.
How many do you expect to be wearing Confederate flag shirts?
I don't know. I don't even know if our listeners have Confederate flag shirts. I'm sure some of them do, but
it's like I don't own one, but
I say it as a joke. But
doesn't mean you can't buy one.
Do you think I should wear a Confederate flag shirt?
Oh my gosh!
At least a hat. The hat would be on brand.
Do you think the new boss would appreciate it?
Ooh, I don't know how Paul will react.
Yeah, well, we could find out the hard way. Let's ask for forgiveness, not for permission.
Exactly. If you do it, I'll do it.
All right, so Trump yesterday was on the campaign trail, and he was in Georgia. And he kicks things off in Georgia by letting everybody know, we love you, Georgia.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. And hello, Savannah, and hello, Georgia. We love Georgia.
You know, it's incredible. He's in Savannah, Georgia, and he didn't have to bus anybody in from Atlanta. You know, when Kamala Harris was in Savannah, Georgia, they had guys taking bus rides for what is it, 4 hours from Atlanta to Savannah, or 4 hours just hop on a quick quick ride down to Savannah, Georgia.
Just a jump, hop, and a skip.
You know, that's nothing.
Over the river and through the woods.
They had to bus people in from Atlanta to fill up an arena in Savannah for Kamala. They didn't have to do that for Donald Trump. Trump also came up with a new nickname for Kamala Harris, which I think is the best nickname for Kamala Harris. This is the second time he's used this one. The Tax Queen. It is so good, so cutting, and on point. I think he needs to roll with this one. I think it's better than Comrade Kamala. It's better than Scamala. It's better than Kamala. It is the Tax Queen.
Kamala Harris. Have you heard of her?
Have you heard of her?
I had the first debate, and after that, Biden was down 21 points. And they went to him and they said, you're going to lose, you can't win, you're out. This is a coup, by the way. This guy had 14 million votes. We're going to put in somebody else. The last person was going to be Kamala Harris, but then they decided to be politically correct, and she got the job. She was the last one. There were 14 people mentioned. She was number 15, and she got the job. And if you saw her with Oprah the other day, or if you saw some of these interviews, there's something going on up there. We just had 4 years of that. We can't have another 4 years. Not going to happen. But she is offering to companies to entice them to keep jobs in America instead of shipping jobs overseas. First, she wants to listen to this. She's called the Tax Queen. They love her.
The Tax Queen. She's called the Tax Queen. They love her.
In other countries, because she forces everybody out of our country into their hands. The tax queen is demanding a 33% tax hike on all domestic production. Now, you can hate companies and all that, but they fuel growth and they fuel jobs, they fuel everything. You tell these companies, they don't care. They just assume be in Europe. They just assume they don't care. They want to go best price, it's called, best deal. And they're going to leave our country in droves if she does that.
He's absolutely right. He's absolutely right. If you raise taxes on companies, they're going to flee. On the flip side, Trump the other day was telling John Deere, if you bring your plants to Mexico, I'm going to put a 200% tariff on that. Anything you sell in America. He goes, I like John Deere, but we have to send a message. And the tariffs are just that, bargaining chips and negotiating moves. Trump is right. You raise taxes on these companies. Oh, we're going to make them pay their fair share. And they're going to go, deuces, we'll leave. And we'll go to, we'll put our company in the Virgin Islands, and that's where our base will be. Or we'll put our company somewhere where we're going to get a more lenient tax rate because the companies want to make money. That's what they want. They want to make money. Kamala's going to drive them out of town, out of the country.
It's nice to say you're going to pay 33% more. And one day you'll read, oh, gee, so-and-so, they just signed with China. They just signed with Germany. They just signed with Great Britain is dying to have. They'll give you free tax. Next, she wants the largest capital gains tax in the history of our country. We've never had a tax.
Kamala Harris, she wants you to be able to build generational wealth. She says it all the time. And then, yeah, it's because she wants to tax that before it gets to the next generation.
And then she's telling people, build your place here, but we're going to have a brand new wealth confiscation tax. So if you make money, you're going to pay us a lot. But more importantly, it's called an unrealized capital gain. You know what that is? That means that you're going to pay a capital gain even if you haven't realized it, even if you haven't sold.
It is the biggest scam ever. I mean, think about if you own a home in Middle Tennessee and you've owned it for a while now. It's gone up in value. Well, those are unrealized gains.
So a lot of people are rich, but they don't have cash. Now they're going to have to get cash because if their thing goes up in value, they have to pay a massive tax. You're going to have deterioration. You're going to have a depression. If that happens, you have a 1929 style depression. This woman is grossly incompetent. Grossly incompetent.
I mean, I think that's the nicest way he could put it. And we're going to learn more about Kamala's plan. She's not going to say I'm a middle-class kid and I'm creating an opportunity economy, hopefully. Well, she'll probably say it, but maybe she'll have more ideas. Maybe she's going to steal more of Trump's ideas on taxes. Trump has different views on taxes, and she stole the no tax on tips as quickly as she could because it plays. But Trump's views on taxes, they vary quite a bit from the tax queens.
No tax on tips. No tax on overtime. And for our seniors who have been devastated by this Harris-Biden inflation that was so unnecessary, caused by energy. They let energy go through the roof. It caused it. And also their spending, but I say even more by energy. We're going to have this for our seniors. No tax on Social Security.
I mean, all of those promises affect people immediately. No tax on overtime. That helps the workers and it helps the companies that need the workers to do the overtime. It's twofold. No tax on Social Security. If you're a senior citizen on a fixed income, over the last 4 years, you understand probably more than anyone how hard this inflation has been. You get it. You knew what you were spending every single week. You had it down. And then when Kamala Harris and Joe Biden took over and she was the deciding vote in the Inflation Reduction Act, your fixed income went out the window and you had to start making hard choices. There are so many stories like that, and I've heard them personally from people. I know you have too, and it's got to change. Trump says, I'll change it. No tax on Social Security. No tax on tips. You think about the younger people that are working in a tip-based economy whether they're industry workers, waiters and waitresses, they're doing valet. Listen, no tax on tips is an immediate boon to your wallet. 100%. And this is a generation that can't afford to move out of their parents' house because rent is too expensive. They can't even fathom buying a home because of mortgage rates and how much housing costs have gone up. That stuff impacts people immediately. It wouldn't shock me if when Kamala unveils her tax plan today, she's going to use some of this stuff. Because that's what she does. She doesn't have an original idea in her body. She just repurposes what Trump says. Maybe she'll come out wearing a red hat. Maybe. But Trump's views on taxes versus the tax queen's views on taxes are two completely different things. Completely different things. And maybe that's why we're seeing polls where Trump is taking a lead over Kamala. According to a new Quinnipiac poll, Trump has a 1-point lead over Kamala and 2-point swing since August. They have Trump at 48, Harris at 47, Stein at 1, Oliver at 1. The last poll had Harris at +1. And I think that their internal numbers are far worse. You've heard Dan talking about it. I've mentioned it a couple times myself. In the back rooms of the Democrat establishment, you picture a seedy, smoke-filled, dimly lit room where they're looking over these numbers. They understand what time it is, and this is why they have Kamala coming out with an economic plan. Nancy Pelosi said last night that'll come today. A more specific plan, because every time she's been asked for specific policies, she says, well, I'm a middle-class kid. I'm from the middle class. This is also why they're going to send her to the border. They're sending her to the border on Friday because she's upside down on border numbers. Obviously, everyone trusts Trump more when it comes to the southern border. Obviously. You don't have to look too far in the headlines to understand why. You don't. There's also reports that Senate Democrats are fretting that Kamala Harris may be underperforming against Trump. They say maybe, but I think that these Senate Democrats are fretting because they're also privy to the internal numbers. I think they're panicked. Breitbart has a story. Democrats fear Kamala Harris may be underperforming against Trump compared to prior Democrat candidates, Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton. The Hill reported that Senate Democrats remain worried that pollsters are undercounting Trump's true performance against Vice President Harris and that her marginal lead against Trump raises eyebrows. Yeah, I would think so. Fetterman out of Pennsylvania. Polling has been really seriously damaged since 2016, and that's one of the truths, is that Trump is going to be tough in Pennsylvania, and that's the absolute truth. Yeah, Pennsylvania, I think it looks good for Donald Trump. Fetterman, I played some audio yesterday. He's saying, listen, people don't understand. Trump has a strong hold on Pennsylvania, and it's only gotten stronger since the assassination attempt in Butler. But it's not just Pennsylvania and Fetterman. Democrats continue to be worried about Harris's lead in the blue wall of Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. Raphael Warnock out of Georgia, where Trump was last night, says, we know this election is going to be close. It's going to be close in the battleground states, including Georgia, which is why I'm doing everything I can to make sure we put Georgia in our column. The only poll that matters is November 5th, right? Yeah. He also added, we all talk about margin of error for a reason. Yep. This is why Trump was in Savannah last night. Like, the battleground states are hugely important. I think Trump is going to win Michigan. I'll explain more on that in a little while. But the internal numbers have to be terrible for Kamala Harris. They have to be. They have to be. A Senate Democrat told The Hill anonymously that it's ominous. There's no question that it is concerning. But you're working as hard as you can work no matter what. My sense, there's not a lot more you can do than we're already doing. Well, if this is the best the Democrats can do, my friends, we're in good shape. We're in good shape. I tend to be pretty optimistic when it comes to November 5th. I don't know what's going to happen at the end of the day. I don't think anybody does. We're going to have to wait and see who wins the presidential election. But I feel good. I feel good. And when you watch the moves that Kamala is making behind the scenes and in public, you have to wonder what numbers they're seeing. 100%. 100%. The anonymous Senate Democrat continued with The Hill saying, the only thing I can come up with is that people do feel embarrassed. most of what he preaches, Trump, most of us have taught our children to try not to be that way on the playground. So there's a certain amount of reluctance to admit I'm going to vote for somebody whose conduct I tell my children is wrong. So even the anonymous Senate Democrats telling the Hill, they're saying Trump has a lot more support than people are willing to admit. And I think that is also true. I think quietly and silently, you're going to have many Democrats and independents going into the voting booth on November 5th or casting a mail-in ballot pre-November 5th. And they're going to look left, they're going to look right. And as soon as nobody's looking, they're going to check Donald J. Trump in the presidential election box. Trump had a lot more to say while he was in Georgia, especially about the border visit that Kamala has planned. We'll bring that to you next on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand, and I got to tell you about my friends at United Structural Systems. If you need USS, you want to make sure that you're getting the company that is going to provide their best. Because if you need USS, it could be a big problem that you need to deal with immediately, like foundation repair or crawl space encapsulation and waterproofing. We're getting a lot of rain right now. If you're having waterproofing issues, you're feeling it. You're seeing it. And you probably dread it every time you see rain in the forecast. You don't have to dread it. You just have to call United Structural Systems. These guys are so good, so honest, so trustworthy. They'll come to your home and they'll tell you if this is something small that they can fix real quick or if this is a bigger issue that they need to handle immediately. And they have 25,000 satisfied customers that have vouched for them and said they do the right job the right way. They'll come in, they'll create a custom solution for you, and they won't leave until the job is done and you're satisfied. And when they do leave, you are left with a lifetime warranty. Even if you leave the house, they're so confident in their warranty that they'll leave it with the house. Not many other companies are doing that. USS is doing that. Call them today to check out what's ailing your house. 615-488-7855. 615-488-7855. USSTN.com.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lockboxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
A bus driver held at gunpoint leads to a police chase. Also, hundreds of thousands attempt to flee Lebanon as the ongoing conflict continues. Those stories coming up at 9:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Jeff. It is 9:28 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Donald Trump went at Kamala Harris yesterday in Georgia, talking about how she's visiting. She's going to visit the border, you guys. Kamala, she's going to the border. How nice. How nice.
She's going to the border very soon. She hasn't been there for 4 years. Border czar. I'm not the border czar. Oh, for years she was the border czar. Right now she's saying because it's the worst border in history, but she's going to the border. It's very interesting. But you know what I ask? Well, even her policies now, they're crazy. They're crazy. They'll destroy country. But why didn't they do it 3.5 years ago? Now she's saying, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, whether she's right or wrong. So she had 3.5 years to do it. She didn't do anything. Our country has really gone back to levels. The only employment was all the bounce back jobs that we created. Millions and millions bounce back right after the pandemic. Any pandemic anywhere, you have bounce backs. And they had a bounce back. But you know, out of all the jobs that were created, most of those jobs went to illegal migrants. You know that.
He's absolutely right. There's nothing in that statement that is a lie. They'll tell you we're creating all these jobs, then they'll quietly revise down the numbers. But the numbers that stay, the overwhelming majority of those jobs are going to migrants, not American citizens. What's the deal? This is the flex that they have. We've created all these jobs. Not for you, though. Not for you. I'll cover more about what Donald Trump had to say on Kamala Harris on the border, what they're saying on CNN about Kamala Harris on the border, and some stories about what's actually happening on the border on the way. It's 9:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It's 9:30. I'm Jeff Malinoff with your top stories. It is still in the 60 degrees area. It's going to go up to the 70s later today. Clouds all day. That forecast is on the way. A city bus in L.A. was hijacked, leading to a long police chase. ABC's Alex Stone has more.
It was a chase that went across L.A. with police in pursuit of the Metro bus. A driver was being held at gunpoint. The driver and 2 passengers were on board with the gunman. Eventually, the LAPD got the bus to stop. Deputy Chief Donald Graham says then the SWAT team made entry.
Rescuing 2 individuals from the bus, as well as taking the suspect into custody.
When police went in, they found 1 victim on board. The others were not injured. Alex Stone, ABC News, Los Angeles.
As both Hezbollah and Israel trade missile strikes back and forth, up to 500,000 people are attempting to get to safety. Here's ABC's Ian Pannell.
As the 2 warring sides ramp up their attacks, hundreds of thousands of families now internally displaced in just 3 days. One family telling us they travelled for nearly 20 hours to get to safety. 2 parents and their 5 children, their youngest, baby Mohammed, just 8 months old. And Afra tells us her priority over the last 24 hours was the safety of her kids. She describes her family's trek to safety as difficult and filled with destruction.
That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Jeff Malinoff, WTN News.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number 1, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number 2, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
going to, she's going to the border very soon. She hasn't been there for 4 years. Border czar. I'm not the border czar. Oh, for years she was the border czar. Right now she's saying, because it's the worst border in history, but she's going to the border. It's very interesting. But you know what I ask? Well, even her policies now, they're crazy. They're crazy. They'll destroy country. But why didn't they do it 3.5 years ago? Now she's saying, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. Whether she's right or wrong. So she had 3.5 years to do it. She didn't do anything. Our country has really gone back to levels. The only employment was all the bounce back jobs that we created. Millions and millions bounce back right after the pandemic. Any pandemic anywhere, you have bounce backs. And they had a bounce back. But out of all the jobs that were created, most of those jobs went to illegal migrants. You know that. It didn't go to Americans. And what's happening with the people pouring into our country is they are killing the jobs of the black population and the Hispanic population. They're taking their jobs. So
he's absolutely right. When the migrants come in and they're taking Americans' jobs, they're actually taking jobs from American citizens that are black and Latino first. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. CNN running a headline that says Trump wants to send the Haitian migrants back. Yeah. Is that a radical take?
What?
How could you?
How dare you?
Yeah. I mean, I love what J.D. Vance said the other day. Kamala waved a magic wand and through an illegal action, gave all of these Haitian migrants temporary protected status and then flew them in. So that makes them legal and we can't send them back. It's like, no, I don't buy that for a second. Also, the State Department says don't travel to Haiti. It's too dangerous for American citizens, but let's bring Haiti here to Springfield, Ohio and Charleroi, Pennsylvania. That's fine. Right? Oh yeah, that no big deal. No big deal. But Kamala Harris is going to the southern border. She's going to walk along the wall that Trump built. She's going to take her photos and tell you that she's going to be so tough. She's so tough on the border. She's going to be just the toughest.
So glad they tidied up everything down there for her.
Yeah.
Not to get her shoes dirty or anything.
Listen, you know that they cleaned everything up just like they do anytime anyone of any significance comes to the border.
Yeah, it's just a press tour.
How many laughs do you think she'll have at that border, just looking around, just randomly laughing?
I don't know. I'm more wondering if it's going to be more or less cringy than AOC outside the migrant detention centers with the
That's
fence.
a tough one to beat.
Do you think it'll be more cringy than that or less cringy than that?
She was like 2 miles from the actual place, so I don't know. I don't know how you can get more cringy than that.
When she goes down to the border, do you think she's going to address the fact that they found RPGs and IEDs at a border area, just on the other side in Mexico?
I hope they're ours.
No.
Wait, they're probably not.
No, they're not. And is she going to address the fact that our border agents and Border Patrol are at more risk now than ever before? This was a news report from News Nation the other day. RPGs and IEDs found at the border.
A shocking discovery really representing what CBP is calling a drastic escalation in the type of weaponry being used over in Mexico. So we were able to exclusively obtain an internal alert that went out to Border Patrol. Now, this alert said that 4 rocket-propelled grenades or RPGs and 8 improvised explosive devices or IEDs were found along with a large amount of ammunition within a scout site that was also dismantled by Mexican officials.
U.S. law enforcement should be concerned for their safety, especially along the border, because those missiles and those weapons easily come across the border. They do have the resources, and in fact, they do have the capabilities and will use them against us, especially when we go in the next couple of months, depending on what happens in this political atmosphere. They have the capabilities to fight back.
Yeah. Do you think Kamala Harris is going to address that while she visits the border? No, of course not. She's not going to address anything real at all. She's going down there for the photo op, and so that way she can say that she's tough on the border. And I'm a prosecutor. Didn't you know that? Whoop whoop. It's just clown stuff that we're dealing with Kamala Harris. Even CNN's Ava McKend doesn't buy Kamala's "I'm tough on the border" routine. This was her last night.
The vice president has a long history, a well-documented history of really being an ally to these immigrant communities. She has 2 chapters in her book, I Say We Fight and We Are Better Than This, where she really makes a robust case for undocumented immigrants. During the Trump administration, she talked about a climate of fear. She dismissed the border wall as ineffective and a waste of resources. And even her guest at the joint session of Congress was a DACA recipient, was a dreamer. And so for her to go down there and characterize herself as tough on the border, to me, it isn't consistent with a lot of the policy positions that she previously has espoused.
Yeah, it's not consistent with any American citizens that I know that this is the woman that's going to be tough on the border. It's not consistent with what she says. It's not consistent with what we see. It's just not consistent. But she's going to go down there anyway. She's going to do her best to act tough on the border. But she's not going to address anything real. She's not going to address the RPGs and the IEDs found. She's not going to address Tren de Aragua. She's not going to address the violent crime. She's not going to say Rachel Marin's name or Laken Riley's name, Jocelyn Nungary's name. She's not going to do that. She's just not. The family of Rachel Marin, they're still waiting to hear from Biden and Kamala, by the way. Still waiting. Still waiting. It's like the skeleton in the rocking chair. I'm still waiting. Still waiting. But she's going to go down there for her photo op. Isn't that nice? Do you feel good about that? She's going down there for optics. She's going down there for selfish reasons. She's going down there because in closed backdoor rooms, they understand that the numbers for Kamala Harris are terrible. Terrible. Dan was saying it all morning. I'm in complete agreement of this. She is down in their internal numbers, so they have to do something. My wife just sent me a message, and she said the Kamala Harris going to the border is theater of the mind. It's absolutely theater of the mind. Great take. Smart wife. Get yourself a based wife. It's theater of the mind. Absolute theater of the mind. And anybody paying even a little bit of attention can understand what's going on with the border. Just yesterday, the story popped up in St. Louis, Missouri. An illegal alien killed a St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department officer, David Lee. This guy's 44 years old, husband, father, veteran of 18 years on the force. He was killed in a drunk driving crash by an illegal alien. You know, they tell us that the illegal aliens are coming here to do the jobs that American citizens just won't do, that they just don't want. I don't know. I thought we had plenty of American citizens also driving drunk. Do we really need illegal aliens to come in and do that job? Do we need illegal aliens to come in and do the job of killing police officers? Also, this police officer, it doesn't matter to me, but Officer David Lee is a black police officer, and I haven't heard any outrage from Black Lives Matter. Are they still a thing? Is Black Lives Matter still happening? Asking for a friend, because this kind of stuff to me would seem like something you would want to be out in front of, right? But, no. Black Lives Matter only when they decide that it's the right case, right? Ramon Arnaldo Chavez Rodriguez, please say the hyphen, a 24-year-old illegal alien from Honduras, has been arrested and charged with drunk driving, causing a death, exceeding the speed limit, and driving without a license. This guy had no regard for the law, and he took the life of a 18-year veteran of the police force, a husband, and a father. It's disgusting. Do you think Kamala Harris is going to address this when she's down at the border? No. It was September 22nd. Chavez Rodriguez was allegedly speeding when he lost control of his vehicle. At that time, Lee had been responding to a one-car crash alongside the highway when Chavez Rodriguez's vehicle struck him and threw him several feet away from the crash, police allege. Lee was rushed to St. Louis University Hospital, where he died from his injuries. This police officer was out there helping people, responding to a crash, and he lost his life because of an illegal alien that Kamala and Joe led in the country. No outrage from the left. No outrage from Black Lives Matter. No, even media coverage at all. And it's just going to be another family that Kamala Harris and Joe Biden don't reach out to. It's going to be another story that Kamala Harris and Joe Biden ignore while she pretends to be tough on the border. This illegal alien, Chavez Rodriguez, who killed the police officer, his blood alcohol level is at 0.10%. The legal limit's 0.08. And his blood was taken a few hours after he had been taken in. So it went down. Lee's wife, Tanya, told local media, he was the yin to my yang, my best friend. He was my partner, my other half, one half of my heart, and I'm the other half of his. Lee's son, who is now going to grow up without a father in St. Louis, said his dad loved to play basketball and was devoted to his job as a police officer. He said, he was somebody who I could talk to about anything. He's the reason why I chose to go to school for criminal justice and do what I'm doing now. Chavez Rodriguez remains in jail in St. Louis, where he's being held without bail. Will Kamala Harris highlight this story when she visits the border? Nope. She won't. She's not going to. This story doesn't help them with their narrative. The story actually rips their narrative apart in many different ways. Many different ways. But your average American understands what's happening on the border, right? Even CNN national political correspondents understand what's happening on the border. A Michigan Union member was being interviewed by MSNBC, and they were asking him about his support for Donald Trump. And one of the things that this Michigan Union member said is that there are thousands and thousands of illegal aliens coming across the border every day, and well, Kamala doesn't do anything about it.
Mostly just immigration.
Can you talk a little bit more about that? What about immigration have you been paying attention to?
There are thousands and thousands of illegal immigrants coming across the border every day, and the vice president has done minimal work to fix that, based on what I've seen. So I'd like that to change.
Yeah, I would like that to change too. She's going to change what she's doing for optics reasons, but she's not going to change her actions behind the scenes. She's going to go out in front of the border and act big tough, big mad, and be all security prosecutor lady. But it's a lie. And we can listen to what she says, but let's judge her by her actions. Let's judge her by her actions. Because that's what I can do with Trump at the same time. Let's judge Trump by his actions. Remain in Mexico. Making Mexico provide military at the border. Actually having strong border security, as opposed to a gang of guys that just release illegal aliens into the interior of our country. These two things are not the same. They're not. Kamala Harris is going to act like she's just as tough on the border as Donald Trump, but we know what time it is. I think the majority of Americans understand what time it is. Like the overwhelming majority. Some may hold their nose and vote for Kamala Harris anyway. I don't understand why. It blows my mind, but that's just a simple reality, right? But I think that what's happening at the border is actually waking up a lot of Americans. Over the past 3.5 years, what we've seen has been nothing short of catastrophic. Nothing short of catastrophic. And no matter how many border visits she has planned before November 5th, I don't think it's going to help at all. I don't. Families in Wisconsin are actually nervous to send their kids outside to play alone because of illegal aliens. This is an actual story. I'll bring that to you next. Nobody should feel unsafe in their own neighborhoods. And there's a couple ways that you can keep yourself safe. One of the ways that I recommend is going to the Glock store, seeing my friends down there, getting yourself a firearm, learning how to use it, and training with it. Your personal safety is going to be your responsibility, but you want to train with the experts. I just had another training session yesterday, and I got to tell you, Monday. Jeez, the week's flying by. Monday, I had a training session. It is so awesome. I already want to go back. You're not just staying stagnant in a lane range, aiming down and trying to hit a bullseye. I'm moving throughout a private shooting room where I'm focusing on a target that's very close to me, shuffling across the room, focusing on a target that's far away from me, dealing with real life scenarios. That's what you get at the Glock store when you train in the private shooting rooms. That's what you get when you're paired up with a private instructor who is going to tell you everything you need to know about firing your firearm, how to engage, how to be safe, how to pull it out of your holster, all the things you need to learn, and you need to learn at the Glock store. That's where I do my training. I'm set up for a once a month recurring. I would like to go a lot more, but right now with my schedule, once a month is what I can do. What can you do? Call the Glock store. Set something up. Get in there and start training. Again, your personal safety is going to be your responsibility, but the Glock store is not going to make you do it by yourself. Call them today. Set up a training session, 615-682-6565, 615-682-6565. It's the Glock store and glockstore.com. Minutes from the airport, worth the drive from anywhere.
Hey, it's Dan Mandis, and I am so glad that California Closets has fixed my closet catastrophe. After exact measuring and planning, they came over and got to work. Yeah, once it was all plotted out on their 3D CAD system, the pieces are measured, cut, and precisely installed into my space. It was clean, fast, and professional, and above all, my new closets look and function great. Now, this was my dormer, and now this is my new dormer thanks to California Closets. Look at all of this added space for shirts and shoes, you name it, and it is cut so precisely, simply amazing. And my old closet that has now been reborn as the ultimate in style and functionability, making the best use of the space that I had. They can work on just about anything: bedrooms, garages, home offices, closets, pantries, and so much more. Find them online, CaliforniaClosets.com, and see what they can do for you. You can schedule a free design consultation. Mention my name, CaliforniaClosets.com.
A new report regarding how the Secret Service handled the first assassination attempt on Donald Trump. Also, Kamala Harris wanting to abolish the filibuster has some members of Congress pushing back. Those stories coming up at 10 a.m. on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Jeff. That filibuster story is wild. We're gonna cover that in a main segment in a little while as well. It's 9:58 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Parents in a small rural Wisconsin town are alarmed over a recent crime allegedly tied to the dangerous Venezuelan Tren de Aragua gang. And some have told their representatives that they're afraid to let their children play outside after a gang member was arrested for sex crimes. Is Kamala Harris going to address that when she goes to the border on Friday? Probably not. Probably not. But it's a legitimate concern. Fear has struck the small town of Prairie du Chien, Wisconsin, after a 26-year-old migrant, Alejandro Jose Coronel Zarate, was arrested on September 9th and charged with sexually assaulting a woman and her daughter repeatedly. Donald Trump said that they're coming over the border and they're rapists and they're murderers and they're killers. They called him a racist and a bigot. They said that they're coming here for a better life and more opportunity. They're doing the jobs that Americans don't want to do. Apparently, one of those jobs are assaulting women and their daughter in small rural towns in Wisconsin. Apparently, right? I'm just following the logic. Is this a job that Americans don't want to do? Asking for a friend. We got a lot more to get to on the border. We could spend an entire show on the border. We honestly could. That's how much insanity is happening because of their open border policies. What does voters in Pennsylvania think about it? What did they say to NBC? You're going to want to hear this. And the NBC reporter asking the questions was flabbergasted at the answer she got from one PA voter. We'll play it next. It's 10 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It's 10 a.m. and I'm Jeff Malinoff with your top stories. It's 70 degrees. Going to get up to the mid-70s later on today. The clouds are still going to be there. That full forecast in 2 minutes. A new report from lawmakers points to multiple Secret Service failures in the attempted assassination of Donald Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania. ABC's Stephen Portnoy with more.
The bipartisan Senate report finds the failures at the Butler Farm Show were foreseeable and preventable. One county emergency services commander told the panel a pre-event walkthrough with Secret Service was incredibly disorganized and ended with the sense that there was really no plan. When shooter Thomas Crooks was first identified by law enforcement, word was never passed to the former president's detail, even as counter-snipers saw local police approaching Crooks with their guns drawn.
Election 2024 news. Vice President Kamala Harris said recently she wants to abolish the filibuster to restore Roe v. Wade, which has led to multiple independent members of Congress doubting that decision. ABC's Peter Rassam with more.
West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin, who left the Democratic Party earlier this year to become an independent, says he will not endorse Harris because of her stance on eliminating the filibuster.
I believe that when you go down that slippery path, you don't just do it for one issue.
That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Jeff Malinoff, WTN News.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
10:04 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Kamala Harris heading to the border. She's heading to the border on Friday. Her poll numbers internally must be really, really bad. And I think a lot of people understand that she's doing this for political reasons only. She's doing this so that way she can get elected. Because if you look at her policies over the last 3.5 years, she doesn't care about border security at all. She's flying the migrants in. She's flying them in and then telling us that border crossings are down. Unbelievable. And we're seeing the impact in small towns all over the country. Springfield, Ohio. 20,000 Haitians, 60,000 residents. It doesn't add up. It doesn't bode well. Charleroi, Pennsylvania, 2,000% increase in Haitian migrants in a small town. MSNBC caught up with a Pennsylvania voter. They're talking about the migrants coming in. And this Pennsylvania voter, she just gives the MSNBC reporter the business. And the NBC reporter doesn't know what to do with the business at all.
So many people, and there's just not enough resources. There's not enough jobs. There's not enough homes.
She's glad Trump, who she supports, has been calling attention to Charleroi and Springfield.
People need to know that it's just not Springfield. This is coming to a town near you.
This is coming to a town near you. And with 4 more years of Harris, guaranteed it's coming to a town near you. I mean, every time we talk about the Haitians, listen, guys, I get massive numbers of text messages telling me that they're spotting Haitian migrants in Manchester, Tennessee. They're spotting them in Murfreesboro, all over Middle Tennessee. Coming to a town near you sooner rather than later. But this woman on NBC, she doesn't believe it. She says, well, why is that a bad thing?
That it's just not Springfield. This is coming to a town near you.
What is coming to a town near you?
Haitians or immigrants that have poured over the border within the last couple of years.
Why is that a bad thing, given the fact that some would say the United States is a nation of immigrants?
Why is that a bad thing? Why is that a bad thing? I don't know. Let's ask Springfield, Ohio, with their numbers of car crashes going through the roof because the Haitian migrants don't know how to don't know how to drive. Let's talk about the fact that rent prices are going up astronomically because the federal government is more willing to pay a higher price for the Haitian migrants than American citizens can afford. Let's talk about the schools in Charleroi, Pennsylvania, where they have to hire all of these interpreters because the non-English students are slowing everything down. I'm not blaming the kids, but that's the reality of the situation. Who gets hurt in that situation? It's American kids. Why is that a bad thing? Why is that a bad thing? We're a nation of immigrants. Don't you understand? She went just short of calling this woman a bigot. Just short of calling this woman to her face a racist. But she said it without saying it. The look of disgust that she has on her face for this woman who lives in Pennsylvania and is seeing what's happening on the ground in real time and reacting to it the way any reasonable person would, it's disgusting. Why is that a bad thing?
Why is that a bad thing, given the fact that some would say the United States is a nation of immigrants?
They're not coming here to assimilate with us. They're coming here to take over.
Boom. Mic drop moment. The NBC reporter had nothing to say. They're not coming to assimilate. They're coming to take over. Now, maybe that's not all of them, but I'll tell you what, when you drop off 20,000 Haitians in a small town in Springfield, Ohio, assimilation is going to be hard no matter what. Even if all 20,000 wanted to assimilate, that's an uphill battle. They're not coming here to assimilate with us. They're coming here to take over. And we've seen the takeover in real time. Let's look at New York City, where they've taken over hotels. It got too cold over the winter. The migrants couldn't stay outside. They took over a school and sent all the kids to virtual learning for a day. The takeover is on full display. It's on full display. Talk about the jobs. All the jobs going to the migrants, not American citizens. The takeover is already happening. Why is that a bad thing? This is what they do. They tell you it's not happening, and then they tell you it's good that it's happening. This is what we see. This is what we see. Hey, when Kamala goes to the border on Friday, is she going to address the, 500,000 kids that have been smuggled into America and separated by their families? Asking for a friend. She's going to the border on Friday to be tough on border security. Is she going to take questions from the press? Are they going to talk about all the missing kids that have probably been sold into sex slavery? The left is very anti-slavery, except for modern-day slavery, which they're aiding and abetting with the wide-open border. Tom Homan was on Fox News, and he brought up that point. Under Kamala's leadership, as borders are, 500,000 children have been smuggled into America and separated from their families.
Access on information. So when we take your fingerprints and run them, we're running them against our databases. So vetting process is terrible, and that's why we keep seeing these criminals coming to our attention that were released by this administration. I want to add one more thing. You talk about the child sex crimes. Under Kamala Harris, we have over 500,000 children have been smuggled into the United States, separated from their families, smuggled by criminal cartels, and released to the United States. That's her failure as the borders are. And let me add this. They've released these people to so-called sponsors. They don't vet properly. Now they can't find 148,000 children or their sponsors, and I guarantee you, based on my 3.5 decades of investigative experience, these children are in forced labor or they're in forced sex trade, and they're living a life of hell.
It is insane what's happening at our southern border. Why is that a bad thing? We're a nation of immigrants. We're a nation of immigrants, NBC says. Well, Tom Homan says, guys, the sex trafficking trade is booming. Business is booming under Kamala Harris. Do you think that's going to stop if she wins on November 5th? Do you think that's going to change? It's crazy. Yesterday we had a long conversation, a great conversation, and the video's up on YouTube. I had a pastor tell me he couldn't vote for Donald Trump because at the end of the day, Trump is just too immoral. And everybody's entitled to their own opinion. I'm simplifying what the pastor said, but that was my takeaway from it. Trump is too immoral. Can't vote for Trump. Okay, but if you don't vote for Trump, you're essentially voting for Harris. And under Harris, the sex trade is booming. Child sex slavery is booming. Trump is too immoral. He says bad things. How can anybody with a conscience vote for this woman? How can you take yourself to the voting booth on November 5th and say, you know what? Screw those kids. I'm voting Kamala because orange man bad. How can you do that? How can anyone do that? They preach to our kids that we're an evil nation because of slavery. Yet at the same time, they ignore the slavery happening in present day that's being facilitated by Biden and Harris. They say nothing about it. We're not going to hear a damn thing about it on Friday when she visits the border.
This administration, what they've done on the border is disgusting.
Tom, when we look at it, if we can just throw this full screen up because it's just egregious. One of the illegals that is responsible for this, 11 counts of sex crimes. You got a rape of a child, indecent assault, raping minors, a battery of a 14-year-old, battery of another 14-year-old. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. And every single time, Tom, because you're right, we don't have the infrastructure. We don't talk to every single country, especially the ones that they're fleeing. They're fleeing for a reason. And then we just give them a notice to appear as if they're just going to come back to us.
Yeah, they go by the honor system. People have broken into our country illegally that have been released from prisons and insane asylums in their home countries and told, head to America. We just say, hey, in a couple of years, you mind showing up to court? Good luck till then. Here's a phone and a hotel to stay in. This is what we get from the left.
Then even when they lose their case, Lawrence, you and I both know Secretary Mayorkas has told ICE, you can't remove somebody, arrest somebody for simply being here illegally. They got to be convicted of a serious offense. So the door's wide open. And look, it's not only the criminals coming across. We brought 500,000 children in this country. And that's why President Trump pushed back on that Senate bill, because that Senate bill says 4,000 to 5,000 illegal aliens a day are okay. But you know what was? No, they did a carve-out in that bill, and people don't understand. In that bill, they did a carve-out. Unlimited children. Children weren't even counted to the 4,000 or 5,000 limit a day, which would entice more child trafficking to the United States. So President Trump did the right thing by pushing back on that bill. It would have enticed more sex trafficking of children.
That's a take that I haven't heard from many people, but Tom Holman is right. The bipartisan border bill that Donald Trump shut down. It was comprehensive border security. 5,000 illegal aliens a day max, guys. That's it, tops. That's where we draw the line. Except it's only adults. We are allowing unlimited children. And what happens to those children when they come into the country? Well, we don't know. Because Kamala Harris and the Biden administration, they've lost those children. Trump has talked about it many times. And it's dark. And it's sad. But it needs to be talked about more. They're sold into sex slavery, forced labor, or they're no longer with us. It's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. But the left will play on your emotion and tell you have to be compassionate. You have to let these people in. We're a nation of immigrants. What's wrong with letting in immigrants? And you go, nothing's wrong with letting in immigrants. Legally, if they benefit the United States, there has to be an ROI. But letting in unlimited accompanied minors that are sold into sex slavery, that's not the move. But that's what's going to continue under Kamala Harris. That's what's been happening under Kamala Harris. And then they let in rapists and murderers, and you have parents in small towns in Wisconsin worried about letting their kids outside to play. We see all this happening. We report on these stories every day. For every Lake and Riley or Rachel Marin or Jocelyn Nungary that we hear about, there's 10 other crimes that we don't hear about. And I think that might be a gross underestimation. What about the crimes that are happening in the apartment complexes controlled by Tren de Aragua that are going unreported because of fear? Oftentimes in these communities, it's other illegal aliens that are targeted by these illegal aliens. But we have to have compassion. We have to let them in, right? It's so uncompassionate. It's so Orwellian, the language that they place on this conversation. Oh, don't be a racist. Don't be a bigot. It's like, what about the kids that went missing? Are we just going to ignore the kids? Spoiler alert, Kamala Harris just wants to ignore the kids that go missing at the southern border. That's what she wants. She doesn't want you talking about the kids that go missing at the southern border. She doesn't want you talking about the illegal aliens that are taking priority over our veterans in this country. She doesn't want you talking about the police officer that was killed in St. Louis by an illegal alien. No. She wants amnesty. She wants to carve out a pathway for citizenship. She wants all of these newcomers to be new Democrat voters. If Kamala Harris wins on November 5th, we're going to get a lot more of the same. And as we see all this happening with our own eyes in real time, they tell us that crime is going down. Oh, how many times have we heard leftists say, crime's down nationally, actually? Crime is down. I've heard it multiple times. It doesn't pass the smell test. It doesn't pass the eye test. And then when you look into the actual numbers, it doesn't pass the numbers test. Weird. There's actually new reporting out that, spoiler alert, they lied again. Crime is actually up. I'll tell you about this story next. And then at 10:35, I've enlisted an expert, Sergeant Betsy Brantner Smith. She's going to be joining the show. Good friend of the show. She's got a heck of a resume, and she can speak to the crime in the country in a way that very few can. I like Betsy Brantner Smith a lot. She's was a police dispatcher at 17. She's been in patrol, investigations, narcotics, juvenile hostage negotiation, crime prevention, canine and field training. She's been a law enforcement trainer for over 2 decades. So her expertise is much needed on this topic. And she's going to be joining the show at 10:35. But on the way next, I'll explain to you these numbers that they tell us crime is going down. And I'll explain to you why that is simply not the case. It's 10:21 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
New charges against the man who was responsible for the second assassination attempt on President Donald Trump. Also, the Secretary of State showing his continued support for Ukraine. Those stories at 10:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Jeff. It's 10:24 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. You can find me on Twitter, True Social, Instagram, at Chris Hand on Air. Hit the follow button. I'll try and follow back. Sometimes people's screen names look a little bit weird. Am I dating myself by saying screen name, username?
Is this AIM chat room?
Yeah, it's like AIM. I think I went back to AIM. It's the millennial in me. You guys didn't use AIM, did you?
I did. I used AIM.
Very, very briefly.
Man, that was the business back in the day. Absolute business.
What was your AIM name? What was your chat name?
It was inappropriate for the show.
as I figured.
Well, if you follow me on Twitter, I'll send you a message and tell you what it was.
Just a nice little subtweet there.
Yeah. Follow me. I'll follow you back. All the things. You can listen on iHeartRadio, tune in. You can catch the podcast on Apple and Spotify. Sergeant Betsy Brantner Smith is going to be joining us soon to talk about crime. Heather in Gallatin wants to talk about immigration. Heather, you're next on Super Talk. How you doing?
I'm great. Thanks, Chris. I love your show. I listen to you guys every single day while I drive around. Talking to the job situation, it's so hard for people to find a job right now with all the layoffs going on in different industries and manufacturing leaving different cities and seasonal work happening at warehousing, which is a big part of Tennessee. And it's difficult. Like I've even applied for jobs, and they want everybody to be bilingual at this point for any sort of position that touches these jobs. And I'm wondering, why do you have so many employees that you actually need a bilingual person to be able to do administrative work, HR work, payroll work, these different positions? And I'm starting to realize the answer is, they don't want competition for these jobs. They want to be able to pay the lowest wage possible so that we're not asking for more, for a living wage, for one, and benefits and all the things that go along with a good job. People who are willing to take a job for the lowest wage aren't going to be asking for 401k matching plans or health benefits. They're just going to work through these agencies and work as a temporary employee for as long as they can, or be hired on eventually, or the promise of being hired on. And that just dilutes the job market. They're not taking jobs away. They're literally allowing the employers to exploit the workers while they create a vacuum for the American citizens who actually live and need to work here. And then on the open border side and the exploitation of children, there was a reason that New York had boroughs. When all the mass immigration happened from Europe during the world wars that were happening, at least over in Europe, and they were migrating over here to the United States, for one, to escape war, just like the Middle East people are doing. But at that time, they had respective boroughs to go to that were based on ethnicity or religion, and those boroughs took care of those people, and to some degree even policed their own cities to keep the bad things from happening to their community, where we don't really have those places for immigrants to go now. We're just putting them in areas and creating our own little boroughs, like Springfield, Ohio, and their community, or Minneapolis and their community. Like, I believe it's Somalians in Minneapolis, and there's Haitians, in specific areas, and they're forcing these people into these towns without really allowing them to be protected by their own community, which allows them to be exploited. So you're right. They are creating a new slave era, a modern slave era. And they're doing it because these people are completely being exploited.
Yep.
They're not helping them, they're exploiting them. That was all I really wanted to say.
And you nailed it, Heather. I appreciate the call. Thank you so much. Heather's on point. And while all that's happening, we're seeing crime rise in these areas, but Democrat politicians and people in the media tell us, no, crime is actually lower than it's ever been. They tell us that violent crime is stabilizing under the Biden-Harris regime. But that's not the case. Actually, according to the most current data from the National Crime Victimization Survey run by the Bureau of Justice Statistics and administered by the Census Bureau, Breitbart reports that urban centers are facing the brunt of the increase, seeing a 40% increase in violent crime. And these reports run contrary to what we're hearing in the mainstream media, or what is being fact-checked, during the presidential debate with Trump and Harris. We heard David Muir contradict Trump's claim that crime is rising, but everybody can kind of look left and look right and understand crime is rising. and that this doesn't pass the sniff test, let alone a little bit of poking and prodding and investigating. The data is the assessment of the official estimates of non-fatal criminal acts, both reported and unreported, by BJS and NCVS. The report documents crime and its victims as evidenced by 230,000 U.S. residents who were asked whether they were a victim of a crime. The survey has been conducted for over 51 years. And when you take out simple assault, the type of violent crime least likely to be charged as a felony, the violent crime rate in 2023 was 19% higher than in 2019. The last year, as you know, before Kamala Harris went full defund the police. We'll talk to Sergeant Betsy Brantner-Smith on the way about the increase in crime. Got to bring in an expert sometimes, and Sergeant Betsy Brantner-Smith is an expert. She joins the show next on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.30, I'm Jeff Malinoff with your top stories. It's 71 degrees, going to be that gloomy clouds all day today. That full forecast in 2 minutes. As federal prosecutors promised earlier this week, additional charges have been brought up against the man accused of trying to assassinate former President Donald Trump. ABC's Stephen Portnoy with more.
A new federal grand jury indictment now charges Ryan Ruth with attempted assassination of a presidential candidate. It carries a maximum penalty of life in prison. By random chance, the case has been assigned to Judge Eileen Cannon, the same judge who had been presiding over Trump's classified documents case until she dismissed it on constitutional grounds back in July. The same Justice Department that's appealing her ruling in that case is now pursuing the attempted assassination charge against Ruth.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken told ABC News reporters state that the UN was made to help countries like Ukraine with their battle with Russia.
The UN was created after 2 world wars to make sure there wouldn't be another. And one of the things that it did was it got countries together and say their basic rules of the road. One country can't simply attack another, redraw its borders by force, dictate to another country its future, its decisions. That's what's going on in Ukraine. And if we allow that to happen with impunity, if we allow those basic principles, those basic rules to be violated, then it's open season.
That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Jeff Malinoff, WTN News.
Thank you, Jeff. It's Chris Hand here, 1032 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. For my friends at Cover Nash. Guys, listen, if you're tired of paying high health insurance premiums that don't pay your bills, you need to call Shane Ring at Cover Nash right now, 615-465-0023. Stop buying insurance from call center agents who only have a few options. You don't want that in your life. You want all the options. Cover Nash is a national insurance brokerage with access to just about every health insurance company across the country. So what that means is that they're able to shop the entire market to find the best coverage at the best rates, which benefits you. Because they have access to almost every company and every type of plan, they're able to structure the most comprehensive health plans for the least amount of money. As a matter of fact, they actually have an insurance plan that will pay you when you use it. Talk to Shane Ring. He can tell you more. He can break down the specifics. Call him today. Cover Nash, 615-465-0023. That's 615-465-0023. Online at covernash.com. That's covernash.com.
Hey, it's Dan Mandis, and I am so glad that California Closets has fixed my closet catastrophe. After exact measuring and planning, they came over and got to work. Yeah, once it was all plotted out on their 3D CAD system, the pieces are measured, cut, and precisely installed into my space. It was clean, fast, and professional, and above all, my new closets look and function great. Now, this was my dormer, and now this is my new dormer thanks to California Closets. Look at all of this added space for shirts and shoes, you name it, and it is cut so precisely, simply amazing. And my old closet that has now been reborn as the ultimate in style and functionability, making the best use of the space that I had. They can work on just about anything: bedrooms, garages, home offices, closets, pantries, and so much more. Find them online, CaliforniaClosets.com, and see what they can do for you. You can schedule a free design consultation. Mention my name, CaliforniaClosets.com.
So number one, we're going to make America safe because we have to have a safe country or nobody's going to want to come here. And with her, she doesn't know what the word safe is. You know, she was the head of defund the police. Anybody that heads up defund the police is not qualified to be a president of the United States.
That was Donald Trump last night in Georgia. Anybody that heads up defund the police is not qualified to be president of the United States. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. A lot of people say that crime is down. Oh, crime is way down, guys. Crime is way down. But if you look at the left, if you just look around in your own city, you can understand that's not really the case. It doesn't pass the smell test. And it seems like there's new data out there that combats those points. So I've enlisted the help of an expert to discuss this with me. Sergeant Betsy Brantner-Smith. Thank you for joining the show, Betsy.
Hey, it's so great to be with you. And hey, don't believe your lying eyes when you look around and you see all the crime in your neighborhood or in the newspaper or in your city or on the news, because they want you to think it's not really happening.
Right? This is why I wanted to call you and talk to you. Betsy Brantner-Smith has a rap sheet of experience. Beginning your career as a police dispatcher at 17, you've been in patrol investigations, narcotics, juvenile hostage negotiation, crime prevention, canine and field training. You know this industry. You know crime. Is crime really down?
Crime is really not down, and here's where the disconnect is. The FBI is the one that collects data from police departments. It's called uniform crime reporting. It's been happening for decades, but a couple of things happened to skew these statistics. First of all, the FBI switched to a new system in 2021, and that makes things like crime stat comparison difficult. And the FBI doesn't get all the data. They get maybe 40% of all crime data that is reported from police departments around the country. And this is only crime data that has a police report attached to it. So the National Crime Victimization Survey just came out. It comes out annually from the Bureau of Justice Statistics, and they get help from the Census Department. So this is all still the federal government, but the National Crime Victimization Survey tells us that 40% of crime goes unreported, and that in 2023, crime was 19% higher than it was in 2019. Also, from 2019 to 2023, urban violent crime has gone up 40%. And also, we're learning that 70% of property crime, according to this survey, 70% goes unreported, and 55% of violent crime is now going unreported. And we believe that is because people are so frustrated with the woke prosecutors, the woke judges, and movements like no cash bail and defund the police. And, of course, the National Police Association is frustrated with the vilification of the American police officer. And so we see this attack on our justice system, and it's just causing people to say, you know what, I'm not even going to bother to report that my business was burglarized or somebody stole something from my house or this and that. And even violent crime victims are not reporting crime, which is just so sad, because when you live in a country like America, the police are there to help, and the justice system is supposed to help punish criminals, punish aberrant behavior. It's not happening.
Yeah, and I made the point earlier, you know, even in the communities that support a lot of illegal aliens, you're having crimes that are committed against illegal aliens by illegal aliens, and they don't want to report that either. It seems like everywhere you look, there's more crime.
Well, you're absolutely right. When you see criminal groups like Tren de Aragua, the Venezuelan gang that is now permeating some of our cities, they don't just prey on Americans, they prey on fellow migrants. And we see them abuse women and abuse children. They're dealing drugs, they're bringing fentanyl. It's incredibly, incredibly frustrating. But when you have we have over 75 George Soros-installed prosecutors in large and small counties around this nation who are not prosecuting the illegals. They're not prosecuting gun criminals or property criminals. And so people are, again, they're getting very frustrated. And the media wants you. We heard it in the presidential debate that, oh, no, crime is down. In reality, neither violent crime nor property crime is dropping. And one of the things that came out from this National Crime Victimization Survey, too, that I think is really interesting, is that crime is becoming more concentrated in urban areas. In some rural areas, crime is dropping a little bit. But actually, crime is more concentrated in urban areas. So people who live in these large urban areas are being victimized more often, but not reporting it. And lastly, we've had 275 cops shot already this year. So we're feeling the heat, and we're being victimized as well.
Yeah, it's insane. And I made the point, Kamala Harris is going down to the border Friday. I don't think she's going to talk about the police officer from St. Louis who was killed by an illegal alien drunk driver during a traffic stop.
No, she absolutely is not. I'm sitting right now 80 miles from where she's supposed to be visiting, and I would be hopeful that she would talk about what's happening in the border, but we don't hold out a lot of hope because this unfettered illegal immigration, let's call it what it is wreaking havoc in this country. And so many of these politicians and activists don't seem to care about it. They don't seem to care about the victimization of the American people, of American law enforcement, and even among illegal aliens who really are just coming here trying for a better life. They're being lured here by, free housing and free money and this and that. And yet what is happening to them? They're being victimized as well. And some of them are fleeing countries where crime is terrible, and they get here and they realize crime is worse.
Yeah, honestly, I've seen the videos from citizen journalists where they're talking to illegal aliens. They're like, "Yeah, I think I'm going to go back. This isn't what I was promised." But when you look around as a retired police officer and all the experience that you have, and you see Kamala Harris acting like she's tough on crime and really playing up the "I was a prosecutor," does that infuriate you in the law enforcement community?
Well, of course, because this has been such a flip-flop. The National Police Association doesn't get involved in candidates, but when you look at the policies of someone like Kamala Harris, let's be real. As a prosecutor, she was not particularly a pro-law and order prosecutor like so many of these liberal prosecutors around the nation. And if the Biden-Harris administration wants to do something about crime, they are certainly welcome to do that right now. They don't have to wait for another election. And yet again, under Harris-Biden, a police officer gets shot every every 22 hours. Every 22 hours, a police officer gets shot under this current administration. So if they want to do something about crime, if any politician wants to do something about crime, we welcome it, but we're not seeing it.
What can be done about crime in this country? Like, if you could wave a magic wand and fix things in a few steps, what actions need to be taken?
Well, we need to go back to the Constitution. The Constitution very simply says, for example, I don't touch you, you don't touch me, I don't take your stuff, you don't take my stuff, and if either of us breaks that rule, then we have to get punished. That means we go to jail. We have to go back to punishing aberrant behavior. We have to go back to uplifting the police officers who are out there risking their life to keep the peace in this country. And, what Americans can do right now is pay attention. We get all eaten up with who's going to be president. Look at your local election. Who are the judges? Who's your county prosecutor? Who's running for city council, mayor, county board, all that. Check to make sure that you are voting for those pro-law and order, pro-criminal justice system, pro-police candidates. This is all voter-created this issue that we have right now, and it can be voter fixed. Pay attention to local elections.
Absolutely. I love that take. What do you think when you see Kamala Harris saying, well, I'm a gun owner. Also, I want to ban assault weapons. And then you see the old videos of her talking about, well, we can go into your home. I don't care if it's locked, and see if you're taking care of your gun responsibly. How do you feel about that as a police officer? And how do you feel that would be carried out in practice if she got her way?
Well, the National Police Association is the most pro-Second Amendment law enforcement organization in this country. We absolutely believe in the citizen's right to possess and carry firearms legally. So, of course, we don't want police officers, state, federal, or local, knocking on the door of any citizen to see if they're storing their weapons properly and things like that. That is frightening, and it is unconstitutional. We support the Constitution. Every cop in this country raises their right hand the minute they get hired and takes an oath to the Constitution of the United States as well as to their state or other organization. And that would be a horrible nightmare. Do I personally think Kamala Harris owns a firearm? I'm going to call BS on that one, and I've seen her make so many statements where it's clear that she doesn't know much about firearms. And again, we continue to hear this talk about banning assault weapons, background checks, this and that, but nothing has happened in the last almost 4 years of this administration that has done anything to curb violent crime and violent gun crime. The way you curb violent gun crime is to punish it, so you put people in prison.
Sergeant Betsy Brantner-Smith joining us on the Newsmaker Hotline. Sergeant Betsy Brantner-Smith, where can we keep up with you, and where can we support the work that you're doing?
You can go to nationalpolice.org. We've got a lot of great information, social media, a newsletter. We're a charity, so hit that donate button and help out if you can. And you can follow me at SGT Betsy Smith on Twitter. It's great to talk to you, Chris.
It's always great to talk to you. You're one of my favorites. I appreciate you coming on the show every time I ask. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's 10:50 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, it's Chris Hand here from my friends at Paul Winkler, Inc. We had a big client appreciation party last night, and I found myself once again talking to Paul Winkler, asking him questions about where we're going financially in this country, because I can't help but have a million questions for Paul every time I see him. And here's the thing about Paul. He answers every single question I ask, every time. And he breaks it down in a way that I can understand it. That's what Paul can do for you as well when you work with him and his team at Paul Winkler, Inc. They want to really focus on education, so that way you never get that uneasy feeling of blind trust with what you're doing with your money and how you're planning for your financial freedom in the future. Now, one of the things Paul wants to make sure we do is start that relationship off with honesty and transparency, and he wants me to tell you I get paid to do these commercials. I like that. That's the truth. But I don't get paid to be a client. I'm a client because I trust Paul. I trust his team. They don't work on commission. They're good guys. They do good work. Set up a 15-minute phone call today. PaulWinkler.com. That's PaulWinkler.com.
All right, got a crash in Belmont. It's an overturned vehicle blocking the left two lanes of 65 northbound right before Wedgwood Avenue. That's going to be just south of downtown. Got a damning report on the Nashville District Attorney General and Israeli forces preparing to enter Lebanon. These stories and more at 11 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. Thank you again to Sergeant Betsy Brandner-Smith for joining the show. Got a lot of positive reviews on the Super text line, except for Jeremiah. Jeremiah says, "Yeah, but defund the FBI is okay. I got to quit listening to your show." Don't quit listening, Jeremiah. You might be able to learn something. I would be fine with getting rid of the FBI. Huge fan of that. I should have asked Betsy Brandner-Smith what she thought about that. I'll ask her next time for sure. Great guest. Podcast will be available and on Apple, Spotify, and the 99.7 WTN app. Coming up, I want to discuss the RFK bipartisan health event with Senator Ron Johnson that has been really making a lot of headlines. It's a conversation about health in America. It shouldn't be generating hit pieces, yet it did. The Atlantic wrote a lengthy hit piece on this conference, but they didn't refute any of the things that were said. Isn't that weird how that happens? They went after Casey and Callie Means. They went after friend of the show, Alex Clark. They went after just about everybody that spoke at this event. But they didn't go after the information. They went after the individuals personally. That usually tells you that what they're saying is true and that they're over the target. We'll talk about it next. It's 11 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
$11 o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories, and we're still monitoring that traffic problem. Going to be just south of downtown Nashville. Looks like is an overturned vehicle blocking the left two lanes of 65 northbound. That's going to be right there before Wedgwood Avenue. Full forecast coming up in 5 minutes. Right now in Nashville, a report released today on the heels of questions first brought up by an investigation by News Channel 5, puts a cloud over the integrity and public's confidence in Nashville District Attorney Glenn Funk's office. That is according to the Tennessee Comptroller's Office, which says Funk's office secretly recorded conversations of criminal defense attorneys, members of the DA's staff, and visitors without their knowledge. But Funk's not going to face any criminal charges based on the response of Tennessee Attorney General Jonathan Skermetti, who says there is a lack of evidence to support a conviction beyond a reasonable doubt. News Channel 5 says Funk's office quickly declared victory, saying, quote, "This matter is now at an end, and as General Funk has always stated, neither he nor his office has committed any crimes or broken any law." Israeli forces are preparing to enter Lebanon. The BBC says an Israeli army chief says the rocket strikes against Hezbollah targets in Lebanon are setting the stage for his troops to enter what he calls enemy territory. Meanwhile, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken says diplomacy is still the best option.
If there were a full-scale war, and we've managed to avert one till now, we've had a number of times since October 7th where we seem to be on the verge of it. Deterrence, diplomacy by the United States prevented that from happening. But if there were to be a full-scale war, that wouldn't solve the problem. It wouldn't get people back to their homes.
Meanwhile, the president of Ukraine speaking to the UN General Assembly in New York.
The Ukrainian president told world leaders his country won't give in to demands for a negotiated settlement to end the war. Volodymyr Zelensky said Russia is 20 times the size of Ukraine, and it still wants to take over parts of his country.
More land, which is insane.
Zelensky told the UN General Assembly Russia continues to have its sights on his country's nuclear power plants, warning a strike could spark a nuclear disaster.
A day like that must never come.
Stephen Portnoy, ABC News, Washington.
And Florida Governor Ron DeSantis telling residents prepare now for Hurricane Helene.
Folks have an opportunity to plan for that now. You still have time to make the preparations and put your plan in place today, but that time is running out.
Yeah, within the past hour, Helene has grown to a Cat 1 hurricane. And that's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
.1106 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. You can find me on Twitter, True Social, Instagram, at Chris Hand on air. It's the same across all three platforms. You can listen to the show wherever you go on iHeartRadio and on TuneIn. Podcasts are always available. We usually are posting them during the show. Mason's actually top-notch at it. At 99.7 WTN is the app, or you can find it on Apple and Spotify. Mason put his arms up when I gave him a shout-out. What do you think? I got to give you props where props are due.
It's pretty good. I like it. I appreciate it.
Doing the Trump dance?
Yeah, it's the Trump dance.
All right, so
you got me hooked on it.
The Trump dance is the best.
It's so good.
It's one of my favorites. And then you do the little wrist twirl and
You're
the point.
You're too good at it, dude. You're too good.
Point, you know, you got to boom, you got to do the point. Everybody watching on Super Talk TV on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube.
You know.
I do the Trump dance pretty good.
It's so good.
I love it. You can do it sitting down. It's so good. All right.
It fits every occasion.
It does. It's every occasion. You can do it sarcastically, too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You know, it's great.
It'll be perfect when we're celebrating at the VP debate.
Yeah. October 1st, Tim Walsh v. J.D. Vance.
Yes, sir.
Hop Springs and Murfreesboro. We're going to want you out there. That's going to be a party. Brian's starting the show at 3. Then myself, Mandis Murphy. We're going to be jumping on the air with him around 6. It's going to be a raucous occasion.
And don't we have Fox Nation joining us?
Fox Nation's going to be joining us there as well. They want to come to our event. They want to hang out with you.
Yeah.
So we're very excited about that.
We're the ones popping off. They're the ones hitchhiking on.
Jeez.
No Confederate flags, though.
No.
We got a call from the top saying, gotta can that.
Chris, I don't know about those jokes. All right, so I wanted to talk about this roundtable discussion that happened in D.C. A couple days ago. It was on Monday, September 23rd. I didn't cover it yesterday. Full disclosure, I should have. I think this story is a lot bigger and deserves a lot more attention, and I just ran out of time yesterday. But Senator Johnson, Ron Johnson, out of Wisconsin, led a roundtable discussion on American health and nutrition, a second opinion. Okay? This is how they described it. American Health and Nutrition, a second opinion. Senator Ron Johnson and a panel of experts will provide a foundational and historical understanding of the changes that have occurred over the last century within the public sanitation, agriculture, food processing, and healthcare industries which impact the current state of national health. Okay? I think that's a conversation that we need to have as Americans. I do. And I think you can look at a number of things from what they're putting into our food to what they're recommending us to do and say it just doesn't pass the smell test. So first I want to play you the highlights from this event, because the highlights are fantastic. The highlights tell a pretty large story. So let's lead with the highlights from that event. And then we'll kind of break down the reaction that we're getting from the left.
The highest payers of scientists, one of the biggest employers of scientists to make the cigarettes addictive. They move these addiction specialists to the food department by the thousands. And those scientists weaponize our ultra-processed food.
The problem is most people don't know that what they're consuming is making them sick. They know junk food is bad, but they don't realize it's causing chronic disease. And neither do their healthcare providers.
Certain demographics are hit harder than others. For example, Black Americans consume on average 80% of their calories from ultra-processed foods. But make no mistake, all Americans are under attack, and it's costing us dearly.
American food companies are selling the same exact products overseas without these chemicals, but choose to continue serving us the most toxic version here.
This is the brightness of the Canadian version.
Very
and
dull.
This is the brightness of artificial food dyes. Healthier
bright.
countries are already showing us how it can be done.
I didn't learn that 82% of independently funded studies show harm from processed food, while 93% of industry-sponsored studies reflect no harm. I certainly did not learn that medical error and medications are the third leading cause of death in the United States.
The USDA and CDC are all controlled by giant for-profit corporations. Their function is no longer to improve and protect the health of Americans. Their function is to advance the mercantile and commercial interests of the pharmaceutical industry that has transformed them and the food industry.
With all the unsustainable economic burden that sickening is and will continue to produce, we could replace that miserable future with something much brighter and healthier if we had the moral and political will to do so.
Thank you.
Those are the highlights from the event. And then they cap it off with a clip of Kamala Harris at a Sheetz in Pennsylvania grabbing some Doritos. You know what I didn't notice in any of those highlights? 2 words, Democrat and Republican. You see, this conversation should be for everyone. Everybody should be willing to have this conversation about what they're putting in our food, about the medical industrial complex, about what has happened to American society in this arena. Everybody should be able to talk about this. Everybody should be talking about this, whether you're on the left or whether you're on the right. At the end of the day, the positives that would come out of changing what's going on in our food system is a net positive for all Americans. It just is. But for some reason, the left has decided to attack this. The Atlantic wrote a piece. Elaine Godfrey of The Atlantic wrote, and this is the title, "The Woo-Woo Caucus Meets." Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s appearance at a health and nutrition event hosted by a Trump ally showcased a congruence of crunchy and cranky. Now, throughout this article, they don't attack any of the information that was laid out. No, they don't. They don't attack any of the information. For instance, they talk about how at this roundtable. They talked about microplastics and how microplastics are ending up in everything. And you can do your own research. I implore you to do so. I'm not a scientist, not a doctor, but I think this is a big deal. Microplastics are everywhere. We're eating them. We're breathing them in. And they cover this in that Atlantic hit piece, and they say this. And so it went on and on. From my seat in the audience, I listened to statement after statement decrying pharmaceutical firms, seed oils, and the lies of the food pyramid. Speakers cited the rates of obesity, cancer, and diabetes and blamed them on metabolic dysfunction. They warned of the presence of microplastics in food and in the air, which end up settling in the human brain. The brain is about 0.5% microplastics, Kennedy said, which a few recent studies have found. In Kennedy's case, it also contains a percentage of worm. 4 hours was a very long time. Now, if you notice in that whole statement, they don't attack any of the information. They attack the people delivering the information. Because they can't attack the information. The studies are out there, peer-reviewed studies. You can find them. You can do your research on this. The plastics in this country are bad. They're bad for us. Spoiler alert, they're bad. But the Atlantic admits that they're bad and then attacks RFK for having a worm in his brain. Okay? What about the information presented? Well, they don't have anything for the information presented. And they're not going to have anything for the information presented. All they're going to have are these weak hit pieces. And when you go down the line, you can see that there are actually some pretty important people in these industries that now support what RFK is doing. For instance, former CDC Director Robert Redfield, he's on record endorsing Donald Trump now and admitting that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. got everything right. This is Robert Redfield, the former director of the CDC. Listen to RFK talk about the endorsement that he received from Robert Redfield.
I'll tell you something that interesting that happened today, and I actually was going to mention this to Rand, because it was an extraordinary event to me. But Robert Redfield, who I really go after in my Fauci book, kind of a hammer and tongs, wrote an editorial in Newsweek magazine today saying that he was endorsing President Trump because President Trump was going to restore American health, and that President Trump, he said, a lot of people might surprise me to see this, but hear me say this, but he has chosen exactly the only person who can do this, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. This was breathtaking to me because this is the guy who's the head of the CDC that I've been criticizing for years. And then this afternoon, he came over and had lunch with me. It's the first time I've ever met him. And the first thing he said to me is, "You got everything right."
Wow.
Wow. The former head of the CDC looks at RFK Jr. and says, "You got everything right." The Atlantic wants to make you think that these people are crazy and not to be listened to, and they're going to attack their character. But again, during what was 4 hours of discussion, no mention of parties, no negative attacks, just people concerned about what's happening to our food supply. And everybody should be concerned about the health of America and what's happening in our food supply. One guy had the line of the night. He said, hey, if your grocery store has a health food section, what does that make the rest of the store?
Today, we are not simply living longer, we are dying longer. Prevention isn't just an option, it's the only solution. The food we eat is either the safest form of medicine or the slowest form of poison. I'll end with a question. If your grocery store has a health food section, what does that make the rest of the store?
Honestly, if the grocery store has a health food section, what does that make the rest of the store? Why aren't more Americans standing up and saying, yeah, we need to change this? Why not? Maybe they're scared. Maybe they don't see it as a problem. Maybe in the Atlantic's case, they're taking money from people who don't want this conversation to go on. But the conversation does need to happen. It absolutely needs to happen. And Dr. Casey Means, she unravels the propaganda that she says she was taught at Stanford Medical School. If you do anything else today, you should listen to this speech that she gives during this conference. It's a little bit long. I'm going to play as much of it as I can. It's about 6 minutes, but she goes step by step through the medical industrial complex and the food industrial complex and how it is not doing anything to keep us healthy. Listen to this.
You would think that the American healthcare system and our government agencies would be clamoring to fix metabolic health and reduce American suffering and costs, but they're not.
There's no money in that.
They are deafeningly silent about metabolic dysfunction and its known causes. It's not an overstatement to say that I learned virtually nothing at Stanford Medical School about the tens of thousands of scientific papers that elucidate these root causes of why American health is plummeting and how environmental factors are causing it. For instance, in medical school, I did not learn that for each additional serving of ultra-processed food we eat, early mortality increases by 18%. This now makes up 67% of the foods our kids are eating. I took 0 nutrition courses in medical school.
0 nutrition courses in medical school. 0. She went to Stanford Medical School. Dr. Casey Means. She really got a lot of notoriety after her and her brother, Callie Means, hopped on a podcast with Tucker Carlson, which is fantastic and worth the watch for every single American. But what she says here is jaw-dropping. I never took a nutrition class, never had to, when I went to Stanford Medical School. Wild. She has a lot more to say, and I'm going to play what she said to this roundtable discussion on the way. Hang out with us. You're not going to want to miss it. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Real quick, though, I got to tell you about my friends at Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. It's time to get your system serviced, guys. But before you know it, you're going to need to crank on your heat. And when that first cold day hits and you need to turn on your heat, you don't want to find out that it's not working. You don't want to learn that the hard way. Keep your unit in tip-top shape, tippy-toppy, with my friends at Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. Get that annual maintenance, that preventative maintenance. That way you don't have a shock when you need to turn on the heat. Call Busy Bee today, and while you're there, sign up for the Beehive Club membership. That'll get you 3 annual tune-ups, 1 for your heating, 1 for your cooling, 1 for your plumbing. It'll get you a 10% discount on all repairs, priority front-of-the-line service, a $100 annual accrued replacement credit with a maximum of $1,000, no overtime or holiday fees, all that for only $99. And when you buy it in September, you get one free for the grandparents in your life. Call Busy Bee, your Rude Pro partner today, 615-775-7833, 615-775-7833, BusyBeeHVAC.com.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
All right, drivers in the Belmont area, you got a crash blocking the right lane, 65 northbound, right before Wedgwood Avenue. And in Cheatham County, Old Clarksville Pike is closed at Forestwood Road because of a crash. And here in Nashville, a report is damning. Questions the integrity of the District Attorney General Glenn Funk and his office. We'll tell you about it at 11:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. It is 11:24 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We're talking about Senator Ron Johnson's roundtable discussion, American Health and Nutrition, A Second Opinion, and the accompanying hit piece by The Atlantic, who called it the woo-woo caucus meeting. They didn't attack any of the information that was said during this roundtable discussion. But they attacked the people, of course, right? One of the people that they attacked was Casey Means, Dr. Casey Means. She was on a Tucker Carlson podcast that got tons of views. She's her and her brother have been helping Donald Trump with his health policy. They were advising RFK Jr. on his health policy. Smart people. And Casey Means had about 6 minutes during this roundtable discussion that could be the most important 6 minutes of any roundtable discussion I've ever heard. She's going in on Stanford Medical School and how she wasn't taught things that she should have been taught. This is what it sounded like.
I didn't learn that 82% of independently funded studies show harm from processed food, while 93% of industry-sponsored studies reflect no harm.
So independent studies show harm. The food company-sponsored studies don't show harm. That's interesting.
In medical school, I didn't learn that 95% of the people who created the recent USDA food guidelines for America had significant conflicts of interest with the food industry. I did not learn that 1 billion pounds of synthetic pesticides are being sprayed on our food every single year. 99% of the farmland in the United States is sprayed with synthetic pesticides, many from China and Germany. And these invisible, tasteless chemicals are strongly linked to autism, ADHD, sex hormone disruption, thyroid disease, sperm dysfunction, Alzheimer's, dementia, birth defects, cancer, obesity, liver dysfunction, female infertility, and more, all by hurting our metabolic health.
Well, these are the things that you're not allowed to talk about. These are the things that get Dr. Casey Means attacked in a hit piece from The Atlantic. How dare you talk about this? You're threatening our bottom line.
I did not learn that the 8 billion tons of plastic that have been produced just in the last 100 years, plastic was only invented about 100 years ago, are being broken down into microplastics that are now filling our food, our water, and we are now even inhaling them in our air. And that very recent research from just the past couple of months tells us that now about 0.5% of our brains by weight are now plastic.
Nobody ever really talks about that. I feel like this is a conversation that all Americans should want to have, whether you're on the left or the right. It's going to affect everybody equally, but you're not allowed to have these conversations.
I didn't learn that there are more than 80,000 toxins that have entered our food, water, air, and homes by industry, many of which are banned in Europe. And they are known to alter our gene expression, alter our microbiome composition and the lining of our gut, and disrupt our hormones. I didn't learn that heavy metals like aluminum and lead are present in our food, our baby formula, personal care products, our soil, and many of the mandated medications like vaccines, and that these metals are neurotoxic and inflammatory.
These are things that you're not allowed to talk about. This is the stuff that gets you a warning on YouTube. What Dr. Casey Means is talking about. These are the things that'll get you a strike because you're affecting people's bottom line. So tomorrow on the show, Alex Clark, who is also at this round table, friend of mine, Turning Point USA contributor, she's fantastic. She's going to be joining the show to talk about this round table discussion with us at 11:35, and I'm looking forward to it because this was her message to everyone in attendance at that round table yesterday, to which she received a standing ovation.
In 1985, newborn millennials had to follow a schedule of just a handful of vaccines. Today, a child following the recommended vaccine schedule will receive up to 70 shots by the time they turn 18, including 27 before he or she turns 2, and as many as 6 shots in a single visit. Are all these shots producing healthier kids? According to the data, no. Are we allowed to even ask? Also, no.
She's right.
Some parents who've asked too many questions about the recommended vaccine schedule can find themselves reported to Child Protection Services. Or they will get kicked out of their pediatrician's office for not being compliant. This is America, the land of the free. Parents are being held hostage. They did not sign up to co-parent with the government. We want a divorce.
That was Alex Clark on Monday at the Health and Nutrition Roundtable. She's going to be joining the show tomorrow at 11:35. Looking forward to that conversation. It's going to be an important conversation. I want to make sure that you're here for it. 11:35 tomorrow. Alex Clark will be joining us to talk about that roundtable. On the way, I want to give some updates on the assassination attempts surrounding Donald J. Trump. Hang out with us. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
11:30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Looks like the heaviest rain is still to come. We'll tell you about it during the full forecast in 5 minutes. Right now in Nashville, a report says District Attorney General Glenn Funk's office secretly recorded attorneys, his own staff, and visitors without their knowledge. But Funk isn't going to face any criminal charges based on the response by State Attorney General Jonathan Skrmetti, who says he doesn't think there's enough evidence to secure a conviction. The report by the Tennessee Comptroller says its findings put into question the integrity of Funk's office and whether the public is confident he can carry out his responsibilities. Funk's office responded by saying they never violated any laws and this matter is at an end, and that this office will continue our mission to support victims, hold offenders accountable, and keep Nashville safe. Elsewhere in Middle Tennessee, a crackdown on students vaping in school underway in Sumner County. Channel 4 says sensors that detect smoke and vapor have been activated in Sumner County middle schools. High schools are next. And President Biden just told the women on The View why he took so long to withdraw his bid for re-election.
What happened was we were having so much success in getting things done that people thought we couldn't get done.
Right.
I found myself having used more time than I would have ordinarily to, pass that torch.
Yeah, he says Vice President Kamala Harris is ready for the job. And Governor Ron DeSantis is telling Floridians to prepare now for Hurricane Helene.
You can hide from the wind, and there will be significant wind on this storm. But you got to run from the water.
Several fire departments from Middle Tennessee, Nashville, Franklin, and Williamson County EMA went to Florida yesterday. They're going to help with water rescues, storm damage cleanup, and any other emergency services needed there in the Pensacola area. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Thank you, Ken. 11:32 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It's Chris Hand for my friends at Kingdom Fence Company. And if you meet Dave, the owner of Kingdom Fence Company, they're going to be your friends too. They want their fence to tell the story of your land no matter what you need. If it's residential, if it's commercial, if it's agriculture, they do it all. And they can even help you with insurance claims, new or repair. Whatever it is, chain link, privacy, vinyl, aluminum, dog, pool, board fence, they got it all. 615-390-5891. Great sponsor of the show, Kingdom Fence Company, 615-390-5891, kingdomfencecompanyllc.com.
Hey, it's Dan Mandis, and I am so glad that California Closets has fixed my closet catastrophe. After exact measuring and planning, they came over and got to work. Yeah, once it was all plotted out on their 3D CAD system, the pieces are measured, cut, and precisely installed into my space. It was clean, fast, and professional, and above all, my new closets look and function great. Now, this was my dormer, and now this is my new dormer thanks to California Closets. Look at all of this added space for shirts and shoes, you name it, and it is cut so precisely, simply amazing. And my old closet that has now been reborn as the ultimate in style and functionality, making the best use of the space that I had. They can work on just about anything: bedrooms, garages, home offices, closets, pantries, and so much more. Find them online, CaliforniaClosets.com. and see what they can do for you. You can schedule a free design consultation. Mention my name, CaliforniaClosets.com.
$11:37 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. So yesterday, Donald Trump was briefed about real and specific threats from Iran to assassinate him. Following that, Trump posted online, "Big threats on my life by Iran. The entire U.S. military is watching and waiting. Moves were already made by Iran that didn't work out, but they will try again. Not a good situation for anyone. I'm surrounded by more men, guns, and weapons than I have ever seen before. Thank you to Congress for unanimously approving far more money to Secret Service. 0 no votes, strictly bipartisan. Nice to see Republicans and Democrats get together on something. An attack on a former president is a death wish for the attacker." Trump campaign communications director Stephen Chung said that Iran's efforts to assassinate the Republican presidential candidate is part of the Islamic Republic's efforts to destabilize and sow chaos in the United States. There have been 2 assassination attempts on Trump in the past few months, Butler, West Palm Beach, and the Trump campaign communications director Steve Chung said, "Intelligence officials have identified that these continued and coordinated attacks have heightened in the past few months. And law enforcement officials across all agencies are working to ensure President Trump is protected and the election is free from interference." He continued, "Make no mistake, the terror regime in Iran loves the weakness of Kamala Harris and is terrified of the strength and resolve of President Trump. He will let nothing stop him or get in his way to fight for the American people and to make America great again." I hear what he's saying. I understand that Iran has many reasons for wanting to get rid of Donald Trump. Absolutely. Absolutely. Trump is going to be hard on Iran in ways that Biden and Harris could never be. Fully noted. I do want to take all the Iran stuff with a grain of salt. I do. What have the warmongers in Washington wanted for decades now? War with Iran. What does the MAGA portion of America not want? Another forever war in the Middle East. Are these threats from Iran real? I mean, probably. To what extent, I don't know. But I do worry that some of the Iran stuff is forced. And I do worry that if anything was to happen to President Trump, that immediately the finger is going to be pointed at Iran, because nothing is going to rile up that MAGA portion of the base that doesn't want war with Iran to go to war with Iran like an assassination would. That's just me. I could be wrong. There could be a lot more to the Iran stuff that I'm taking, but I'm just telling you, it didn't pass the sniff test for me originally when we were talking with Susan Crabtree. I told her it felt forced. When we talked to Jack Posobiec on the show, he said that he hears that from really the neocon portion of the Republican Party and nowhere else, the Iran stuff. These things could change given new information. I'll give you that. I'm not saying that Iran wants to hold hands with Donald Trump and go for a long walk and talk about sweet nothings. I don't think that's the case. I understand why they don't like him. But we don't get any of the same questions or investigative line of questions that we do with Iran with a country like Ukraine. And we've seen Zelensky campaigning for Kamala Harris in the past few days. We understand that Ryan Ruth had connections to Ukraine, but we don't get to ask any questions about Ukraine. We don't get to ask any questions about that at all. So I say all that to say the Iran stuff there could be something to it, but I'm taking it with a grain of salt, because there's nothing the military-industrial complex would want more than another forever war. And make no mistake about it, if we get into a war with Iran, that is another forever war. That's another forever war. That's going to be another 2 decades. My kids will be adults by the time we got out of that. So all the Iran stuff, I'm just taking with a grain of salt. I'm going to need to see like concrete proof and evidence. And if God forbid Donald Trump is assassinated and they immediately turn and say it was Iran, I'm going to be holding out. I need some more proof before I start beating the war drum, because you know how that conversation would go. The very next day, it would be Iran did it, and then the war drum would be beating. Heck, it was October 8th last year. Lindsey Graham was already on TV saying we need to bomb Iran after the Palestinian terrorist attack, the terror attack on Israel. They were already clamoring for war with Iran. They're going to continue clamoring for war with Iran. And it does give me pause, and I do take all the Iran reports with a grain of salt. That being said, even Matt Gaetz said a U.S. Homeland Security official went into his office and said that there are 5 assassination teams in the country, 3 foreign, with links to Pakistan, Ukraine, and Iran. So there's absolutely some truth to the threat. I just want it investigated more. And I want to investigate even more the Ukrainian threats on President Trump. Because so far, out of the assassination attempts that we know about, there was only one with clear ties to a foreign country. That was Ryan Ruth, and the country was Iran. Ukraine. The country was Ukraine. That's proven. He has ties to Ukraine. But we don't get that same inquisitive mind when it comes to that. We just don't. Also, did you hear about the son of Ryan Ruth? Orrin Ruth, the leftist son. He was arrested in North Carolina on child porn charges. That's interesting. That's interesting. This is the guy who said, well, yeah, my dad hated Trump like all reasonable people do. He's been arrested for alleged possession of child pornography. A review of the SD card located in his device revealed that it contained hundreds of child pornography files. So I think that we need to dig a little bit more on this. When was this guy on their radar? When was this guy on their radar? And is it wrong that my head goes to, was this compromising information that was used to nudge an assassin towards doing the deed that he failed to do? He failed in his assassination attempt, and then days later, his son is arrested on child pornography charges. Am I wrong for thinking that? Maybe I'm wrong for thinking that. The charges he's facing include the receipt of child pornography as well as the possession of child pornography. A review of SD card located in device 1 revealed that it contained hundreds of child pornography files, the prosecutor said in a criminal filing. These files include videos from a known child pornography series created outside of the state of North Carolina. The filing added videos from the series depict minors engaged in sex acts, including videos with adult males, with prepubescent female minors, approximately 8 to 10 years of age. Disgusting, vile, wood chipper. The complaint added that during the search, investigators also recovered a Samsung Galaxy Note 9 from Ruth's person, device 2. A preliminary review of device 2 also revealed child pornography. In a folder titled Download, investigators observed a video depicting an adult female engaging in acts with a prepubescent minor female between approximately 6 to 8 years of age. Vile. Vile. Evil. These people should get the death penalty. 100%. But how long do they know about that on his devices? That's what I'm curious about. How long? How long do they know? Also, some citizen journalists on the internet are saying that there's a link between Orrin Ruth and Taylor Swift. They're posting chats and social media clips from Orrin Ruth of him working on the crew for the Taylor Swift tour. Interesting, right? I mean, that could be nothing. Could just be a gig. But he said, another day at the office. Special thanks to my climber friend Jocelyn for the photo of me in my element. 80-ish feet in the air, making it happen. I'll see you again in Atlanta. First comment says, proud of you. Keep killing it on the T Swift tour, brother. Interesting, right? Interesting. These are just more curious coincidences. It gets curiouser and curiouser every day. Every single day. Also, an Idaho man has been charged with threatening to kill President Trump. He said, I'm going to down him personally and kill him. Warren Jones, Crazy Bull, 64 of Sandpoint, Idaho, allegedly made 9 phone calls with threats to Trump's home on July 31st. An Idaho man has been charged with threatening to kill Donald Trump during phone calls to the Mar-a-Lago resort in West Palm Beach. The charges against the Idaho man come as there have now been 2 assassination attempts on Donald Trump's life. Warren Jones, Crazy Bull of Sandpoint, Idaho. The name fits, right? He allegedly made 9 phone calls with threats to Trump's home on July 31st, just a couple weeks after the first assassination attempt on Trump took place in Butler, Pennsylvania, per Forbes. According to a criminal complaint reviewed by the outlet, Crazy Bull said he would find Trump, adding, I am coming down to Bedminster tomorrow. I'm going to down him personally and kill him. If the mainstream media is going to cover this, they're going to say, no word on his potential motive. That's a pretty standard operating procedure on insane lunatics that want to kill the president. No word on the motive. He may have voted for Trump in the past. No word on the motive. That's what we'll get from the mainstream media. It's 11:48 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. On the way, we're going to check in with Matt Murphy. I see him mulling about the hallway, seeing what's coming up on Murphy's show. Hang out with us. It's Super Talk 99.7. 11:54 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand.
That's
Matt
funny.
Murphy in studio. If only we could tell you the jokes that we tell each other off
That's
air.
true.
We can't. We can't.
They're not about you, Dan. Dan always thinks I'm talking about him. You notice that?
He was,
I was being nice to him, too, and he's all neurotic about it.
He said that you were defending him.
I said that anyone that does morning radio, you have to exist on cat naps, right?
Yeah.
3 hours of sleep at a night, like Edison or Einstein did. That's a compliment. That's nice. And then we said, now, that's the only way that Dan's like Einstein. I just want to clear the air on this. Hello, Chris.
I think Dan's a smart guy. He's made some good hires here.
No, he's a very...
Look at these two guys in the room.
Do not disagree with that, my
Home
friend.
runs.
Absolutely.
Home runs.
Massive, massive victory in his... Whatever award he's up for right now.
Oh, yeah.
I would give him the award just for hiring you and me.
Me too.
Yeah, there you go.
We should make him like a championship belt.
You like how his... I was watching, if you did not catch Nashville's morning news this morning and the crossover between Chris Hand, we call it the crossover in the business, the crossover between Chris Hand and Dan Mandis, you should go check that out on Super Talk TV because Dan's face, the moment you say that you should put it in here, there's 14 different emotions in a second and a half. It was like, it was horror, like, oh my Lord, no.
With the Marconi Award?
Yeah, the nomination.
But the plaque is money. The plaque is awesome. I think we should hang it up.
I don't
in
know.
here.
I mean, should you put up a plaque that you were nominated, I guess, maybe?
Yeah.
Is it an award just to be nominated?
Oh, yeah. Especially as a conservative. With those guys that are doing the nominating.
It's a News Talk Award. Rush Limbaugh won that award multiple times. Sean Hannity's won that award.
Yeah, Dan should win it this year.
I'm a big supporter of Dan. If I had to vote Dan, I'd vote for you, buddy.
100%.
Yeah. I do not. For the record.
You do not have a vote?
I do not have a vote.
What in the news is making you upset today, Murphy? There has to be something that's making you upset. And I want to know about it.
Have you seen Joe Biden on The View?
No.
Have you seen any of that? Have you done anything with
I
that?
heard Ken play a clip during the tease, and I haven't dug into it. And
this is what's making me upset, Hand. I have my rant pants on.
Get them on.
Why is the incuriosity of the mainstream media when it comes to something that might look mildly negative toward their buddies in the Democrat Party? I'm fascinated with how insatiably curious they are if they think the outcome of any investigation will be negative news for conservatives or Republicans. But that curiosity, it's a full stop if they think that it is anything negative for Democrats. And that level of hypocrisy is infuriating to me. Why will no one go down the rabbit hole as to why Joe Biden dropped out of the race? They asked him that on The View, and he's like, oh, well, it's all good, but whatever, it was an analysis. I was doing really well. He actually said that he was doing well against Donald Trump, but he decided that maybe it was time and some people and things and stuff.
That's what he said.
Did you feel that your hand was forced, and what is your relationship with Speaker Pelosi now?
Our relationship is fine. Look, I never fully believed the assertions that somehow there was this overwhelming reluctance of my running again. I didn't sense that.
Okay.
That doesn't mean it's not there.
So he didn't believe that, guys. He didn't believe that there was a reluctance in others for him to run again. So that means he would have continued to run.
You would think. Didn't he say it would have to be the Lord Almighty coming down to tell him not to run?
It's exactly what he said.
And although the polling, as I said, Biden's polling was different, in fact,
it was different. It was different, bro. It was different. It hit different. It hit different.
The matter is, my polling was about, we're always within range of beating this guy.
Yeah.
We were always within range of beating this guy.
Between a percentage of 0% chance to beat him and 100% chance to beat him, yes. That's a range, and you were in range.
He was within.
You were in the.
I feel like you're giving him a lot of credit to say he was within range of 0 to 100%.
I feel like he's in range. That's a range.
Also, they didn't tone down the rhetoric. At one point, Whoopi compared Trump to a bug. and then Biden pretended to kill the bug.
Yeah.
Then he just wouldn't go. He was like a bug. He just kept being there. He was like a bug right there. So you felt...
Yay! Let's kill Donald Trump. Yay! What? There's a word for what these people are. And it starts with A and it ends with holes.
Really? I don't know what that word is. Somebody on the super text line, tell me what word Matt Murphy is trying to use.
Assassin holes.
Assassin holes.
Nice.
All right, Murphy's in next. I think we got him sufficiently riled up for the libertarian lunch.
Hey, for you liberals out there, I think I got a little bit of a cold, so now's your shot. Come on.
Come on. 12 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.